Hello everyone and welcome back to EXA Season 9 Division 2. We are here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix for the fourth round of the season. The 3.1 mile circuit contains 19 corners, 12 to the left and 7 to the right, with 4 DRS zones completing the circuit. The circuit's been on the calendar since 2008 and has had a number of changes over the years, such as removing the old Singapore sling, a chicane in Sector 2, as well as recently removing 2 of the chicanes in Sector 3 to help open up action and potentially a new overtaking spot, which we'll see fairly often tonight, I believe. The circuit has seen various winners and lots of iconic moments and some very, very controversial moments, such as the 2008 season, the first time the track has been on the calendar. We saw Crashgate with Nelson Piquet Jr. going into the wall that ended up giving Fernando Alonso the race victory. We also saw 2017 where Raikkonen, Vettel and Verstappen ended their races before the first corner, with all 3 drivers leaving the race after colliding on the main straight at the start of the race. We also have seen tactical masterclasses like Carlos Sainz holding Lando Norris in his slipstream to slow up the newer and softer compound of tyre running drivers behind him to ensure he can take victory in 2023 and become the only driver outside of Red Bull to win that season. What can we expect from the circuit to throw up tonight? Well, if you look on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit of rain. It's currently intermediate conditions for the 13 drivers out on track, and it is going to be a exciting race. I've already commentated the Singapore race, and it's pretty in the last week, and it's been pretty extraordinary. We're hoping to repeat that. I'm hoping for a repeat of that tonight. But first, I am your commentator, Jamie Jackson, and I will be taking you through proceedings tonight as we get into today's race and qualifying session. We've got 12 minutes left on the clock there, but we've got some thing to go over first. We've got last week's race results. AMS Knight took victory, his second victory of the season, just 4 tenths clear of Ferrari's V10 Leo or Zoran, whichever name you want him to go by. Oliver took the final podium spot ahead of Nelu Safu. Bran was in 5th ahead of Sausage Joe. Archar in 7th ahead of Adam, and then Raven West in 9th with Nitro rounding out the top 10. Been very mixed top 10 in the first 3 races, but one man has stood atop 2 of the 3 top steps of the podium this season. Can he continue that tonight? We'll have to see. He's got a lot of challenges ahead of him. The driver's standing, so well, you've got quite a big margin at the top. 34 points between AMS Knight and Nelu Safu, as the Kick Sauber driver is clearing the field right now, with the top 2 scoring victories in the first 3 races. Bran is then behind that by 7 points, with in 3rd and Zoran in 4th, Flores in 5th, Oliver 6th, Reese Brooks in P7, with Raven West in 8th, Sausage Joe in 9th, and Blazer rounds out the top 10 in the driver's standings. It's very close from 2nd, basically down the rest of the down to 10th or 11th even. 21 points separating those 10 positions. That is a quite astoundingly tight championship in the first 3 races. We'll see if that grows, shrinks, or whatever may occur in the coming races. The constructors standings looks a bit like this. 90 points for Kick Sauber as they lead the constructors by just 24 points over the Scuderia Ferrari team, and 8 points behind that is the RB team, as the V-Carb looks to try and mount a challenge on the Scuderia tonight. Williams are behind them in 4th, with Red Bull in 5th. Aston Martin, McLaren and Alpine have scored are very close, with 6th, 7th and 8th, covered by 3 points. Mercedes have 19 points and Haas on 9. All 10 teams having scored. It is looking like a decent job from all the teams so far, but one stands out above the rest. We'll see whether that changes over the rest of the season. But we've got a qualifying session to go, ladies and gentlemen. We have just under 10 minutes to go. We've got 2 drivers who've already been out on the circuit. Adam and V10 Leo. Well, a lot more drivers actually have been out on the circuit, but Adam and V10 Leo are the only 2 that have set times at the moment. Adam with a 36.8. V10 Leo with a 38.0, 1.2 seconds separate them, but the rest of the field yet to set a time. But someone who is potentially on a lap is Nelu Safu, a Ferrari driver, the P2 driver in the standings. There's someone in the wall, that is Strikey, who's crashed out, but I assume that was actually purpose-filled, because at the moment that RB does have a qualifying ban from earlier in the season. I think they might have just realised that. So they've crashed it in the wall. They haven't got in anyone's way, so we're going to continue on. But Nelu Safu is going to go down towards the final chicane. And in Sector 3, this is the most crucial part of the lap. You've got to get it right, because you've just done a lot of hard work. And Nelu Safu doesn't quite manage it. He's on the soft tyres, no less. Maybe not enough grip in his early phases of qualifying. I say that, we're over halfway through the session. So the Ferrari not able to get a time on, and like the rest of the field, is really struggling right now. RL Hitman, who's currently a Tier 3 driver, a Division 3 driver, sorry, in EXA. You can see him race another couple times in the week as well, as he decides he just wants to cut the sling and just go over the bridge. He doesn't want to complete this lap, potentially looking to get new tyres, potentially struggling with these softs at this moment, like a lot of the drivers are. So we'll see whether that has any effect on mix-up of the grid. Epic OJ is currently on a lap, same with AMS Knight, who comes round the final corner, goes 35.4, goes 1.4 seconds quicker than Adam. But on the intermediates, that is crucial. If someone can get a lap in on the softs, that will be the critical crossover. And it's whether those softs will work hard enough in this session, or will it be too little too late. Back now to Epic OJ. As actually JB goes fast as well, 29.6. So the softs now are beginning to work, if you can just about get a lap in with no sort of grip loss. As we now go down towards Sector 3, fastest in Sector 2 according to our time screens, but we'll see whether that is the case as we go down towards the final chicane. Can the Red Bull get themselves up to where JB395 is, or will the Mercedes remain at the top of the timesheets? It looks to be a fairly decent lap, looks to remain clean, go through the final two corners. What time will the Red Bull do? 27.8. The track is certainly improving, so it may end up being a case of whether you want to go late and try and get the best track conditions possible, because grip is going to really heighten up in the next couple of minutes. V10 Leo goes to 27.4, 4 tenths quicker than Epic OJ, and the Ferrari is flying. Someone else who should be flying is AMS Knight, currently 2 tenths up and invalidated though. Potentially got to look to go into the pits, got 6 minutes left in session. Go and get in, get a new set of softs, and go out again. We'll see whether the Sauber, the championship leader, can retake a victory here tonight and take another pole position. Already had a couple this season. Can he make it another? The Sauber, though, got a lot of work to do, and he will have probably one full flying lap to do so. Especially if you've got to get used to these soft tyres. Some of these drivers are struggling with their softs, so we'll see if that makes a difference. Bran currently on the lap, same with Nana Mama. Nah, yeah, that's it. Nana, we're just gonna call you Nana. If you don't like so unfortunately the Williams jumps behind AMR Washed, and 29.5, 3 tenths slower than the Haas. But then the Bran goes to 28.4, goes 1.1 seconds quicker than their teammates. Similar track conditions as well, so that is all about confidence there. And at the moment, their Williams have got a bit of work to do to get towards V10 Leo's time. And that is the crucial point. You've got to try and get a lap together and just keep it together. Because if you go too quickly, overstep the boundary, like Nelu Safu has done there, but kept it actually kept it valid, and that is crucial here. As we now go through the next sector of the lap, we go down towards turn 10, the Singapore Sling, and into turn 11. This is the long left-hander. You've got to be careful with the wall on the outside as you go into 11. But he managed to keep that nice and tight. We now go into turn 13. A massive lock up there from the Ferrari. That's going to cost him some time. But Nelu is going to come and make a statement at the moment. What has as we now go through the final parts of the lap, we go down towards the final chicane. The Ferrari has not much room to get through there, but decides maybe to back out that one, goes a bit slower. Then the drivers, as they're all going to go into the pit lane, that's very close between the Haas and the Ferrari. How they got through that without any sort of contact, as the Haas actually might have got damage off that, and that is very crucial because those two almost ended in the barriers, and that is very unfortunate for the two drivers. Just going to check that he's working. Yep, that should be okay. So yeah, we will now have the final couple minutes of the lap to go, the session to go, and we've got everyone coming into the pit lane. So 3 minutes 24 to go. V10 Leo tops the timesheet, and Epic OJ in second, Sausage Joe in third, Brown in fourth, Washed in fifth, Nana in sixth, JB 395 in seventh. The first of the drivers to set a time on the softs, so it has some track evolution to help him with his time. Mix in 8th, RRL Hitman in 9th, AMS Knight in 10th, Adam 11th, Rio Harris, who has now joined the session, in 12th, Nelly Safir in 13th, and Strikey, who has a qualifying ban, will start 14th on the grid. And we'll see if that has an effect later in the race, because that is quite far down the order. And yes, it's not the 20 that some drivers may end up with if we had a full grid, but that 14 positions you've got to make up against drivers who are very, very quick in this tier. It could be critical for whether for your position in the championship later in the season. Couple drivers out on track now. RRL Hitman, the tier 3 driver, looks to be the first out on track ahead of the Ferrari, or the two Ferraris of V10 Leo and Nello Safu. Everyone will kind of want to get their laps sorted, really, because if you have any sort of traffic, you could be in various trouble. But with just 2 minutes left to go in session, some people haven't even left the pit lane yet, and that is not what you want to be doing if you are trying to go for a pole, because at the moment, with just really 30 seconds left on the clock to get out of the pit lane and go, you've really got to make sure you get around that track pretty quickly, and that will not mean your tyre strategy will not be optimized. Meeks has retired from the session, I believe, in the pit lane, so that is the hardest stay done with P8. So at the moment, we'll see they drop down the order as the session goes on. But we will go with which is the first Ferrari? Is it V10 Leo? No, it's not. It is Nello Sapu, our P2 driver in the standings. We'll go with them for their final run. Can the Ferrari get themselves up with their teammate, who has excellent qualifying form over the last 2 seasons in Division 2, Nello Safu, looking to join him? We go DRS now available, and down towards turn 1. Sticking as far to the right as possible, using the track limits, keeping 2 wheels in the white line, maximising the amount of turning speed and apex speed you can possibly take very nicely through the first couple of corners. And now down towards turn 4, a bit of a lock up there as you go through, well, turn 5, sorry, and now through the flat turn 6. Don't even blink please, this corner. It is just flat in the modern Formula 1 cars as we go down towards turn 7 through Memorial Corner and into 8 of Stamford. Can the Ferrari pull themselves into the fight at the front as we go into turn 9 at Padang, down towards the Singapore Sling of turn 10? No longer a chicane, just a left-hander that gets longer and longer as you go along to it. Rio Harris is also retired from the session, but I believe was in the pit lane anyway. Over the bridge, down towards turn 13, through the slowest corner on the circuit, and up towards turn 14, 1 minute 3.2, fastest in the first 2 sectors according to our track map. Can the Ferrari put themselves on pole position? But everyone else in behind will be improving. Track evolution is at a premium right now for these drivers, and at the moment everyone looks to have taken it. Turn 16 and turn 17 through the as we go through the final chicane look pretty nice. Going through turn 18, round foot turn 19, up towards the line. P2 for Nelu Safu, 27.8, just ahead of OJ, but V10 Leo is comfortably clear, as the Ferrari, who is already over a tenth up in the first two sectors, looks to try and extend their gap. Go through the final two corners, a king of qualifying previously, 27.4. Can the Ferrari maintain that position? Adam, 28.1. As we cross the line, we're going to have JB cross the line next, and then it will be the Red Bull of Epic OJ, who goes to a 27.4, just 700ths behind the Ferrari, as here comes AMS Knight, who comes around the final corner to cross the line. P4 for the Sauber. Make that P5. Sausage Joe goes into P3. That is an excellent job from the two Red Bulls. I think, unless the Haas of Wash can do anything, and he doesn't, that is V10 Leo on pole position for the Singapore Grand Prix. Our championship leader is down in 5th, but will be alongside their championship rival of Nelu Safu, who is in 6th, and crucially is one place ahead. So V10 Leo on pole position by 600th second ahead of Epic OJ. Sausage Joe in P3, Brown in 4th, Amos Knight in 5th, Nelu Safu will take home 6th. We've got Washed in 7th, Adam in 8th, RRL Hitman in 9th, with JB395 in 10th. Nana Mana is in 11th, Meeks in 12th, and then Rio Harris and Strikey without times start in 13th and 14th position. That is our grid. We have got a long race to go, though. 31 laps of the Singapore Street Circuit, the Marina Bay Street Circuit, I should say, for the Singapore Grand Prix. As we now get the drivers comfortable, get the drivers ready, as we go into the night. As now. We don't have a countdown, so we should be going very, very shortly, and we will be underway for round 4 of the season. Had a break week last week, and our 3 rounds before that. Our evaluation period is over, and it is time for the rest of the season to kick off. We've got tonight, we've got Singapore. The rest of the season, it looks like this ahead of us. We've got Austria, which is a sprint race, Imola, then Belgium, then break week after that. Then we head to Japan, Netherlands for a sprint race, then Vegas, and then Brazil, and then Abu Dhabi, which rounds off the season in a 5-week sprint to the finish. And that is our season. 12 rounds, 3 completed, 1 on tonight, and the rest to come throughout the rest of the summer. Please come and join us throughout the rest of the season, and this should be an exciting one as things will begin to heat up as the season goes on. So, with that in mind, who will be the next driver? Who will be the next driver to take victory? Will it be Nelu Safu? And I hope this is done. Yeah, it's done for up. That is fine. Nelu Safu, V10 Leo, Nelu Safu, AMS Knight already taken victories. Will they take victory tonight? It'll be very difficult from where they are, 5th and 6th on the grid. Yes, not impossible, but they've got very fast drivers ahead of them. Can V10 Leo take their first win of the season? Can Epic OJ or Sausage Joe or Bran or someone else who is further down the grid take a victory in this tier 2, well, division 2 EXA grid? Very tight. We're going to get these drivers warmed up as we go into the formation lap now. Tyre wise, we've got mainly hard tyres, apart from Sausage Joe, Bran, Meeks and Rio Harris, as the 4 go to mediums. They're looking to try and get themselves good starts, get themselves quickly through the field. If you're Meeks and Rio Harris, get themselves into the leading positions if you're Sausage Joe and Bran, and try and pull out a gap and use that clean air to hold up the drivers later behind, who will be on softer compound later in the race. Now, with just everyone getting themselves ready, who can take victory tonight? Anyone can certainly do so, but it looks like AMS Knight does, V10 Leo and Epic OJ, have very much got the pace over the rest of the field. AMS Knight, Nelu Safu down the order in those final laps. Was that potentially just because they only had 1 lap to do so they didn't have anything to bank off of, which could have ultimately hurt their pace, made them a bit more tentative than likes of V10 Leo and Epic OJ, who already had a lap under their belts and were sat in P1 and P2 as we head into the final runs. So with that in mind, who has the confidence going into this 31 lap race? Whole different ball game now, different tyres, different fuel loads, and now we've got different strategies to play with. It can get more exciting. The 14 drivers are looking to get themselves on the grid. We're going to have an awful camera angle to start. Meeks disqualified for, I assume, missing their pit box. That is very unfortunate for the Haas. But we're going to get ourselves underway as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix at Marina Bay for round 4. And it's lights out and away we go. Epic OJ got a decent start. So did the V10 Leo. As we go down towards turn 1. Couple drivers back there fighting as we see the Red Bulls go fighting into turn 1, 2 and 3. Epic OJ has to defend while Sausage Joe goes to P2. That is an excellent move from the Red Bull, well committed. Meanwhile, Bran is looking to make a move. As we go up the inside into turn 5, we go down towards turn 6 now. The Williams gets just about ahead of the Red Bull, who drops 2 positions in the opening couple of corners. Can they maintain and recover from that as they manage to just stay ahead of Nelu Safi and AMS Knight, who meanwhile have had their fights of their own, the championship leaders. Nelu Safi has got ahead of AMS Knight crucially off the start. That was going to be costly for the Sauber later on in the race. But we now go on to into sector 2, and at the moment through the Singapore Sling and under the bridge, over the bridge, sorry, as the Ferrari of V10 Leo leads Sausage Joe. Crucially for V10 Leo, didn't lose any positions to medium runners off the start, so will ultimately be benefiting from being in front of them right now, causing them to have more tyre deg, and we'll see whether that plays a factor later on in the race. But V10 Leo leads the way now ahead of Sausage Joe, Bran third, and then fourth for Epic OJ, Nelu Safi, Amos Knight, Adam, Hitman, Washed, and Meeks complete the top 10. Rio Harris and Strikey have made up a place themselves. Why is that not working? There you go. As Rio Harris just gets ahead, back ahead of Strikey as those two squabbled in sector 3. But with 1 lap down, we've got a long race to go because these drivers are going to be pushing it. Meanwhile, who is pushing is that top 4. They are starting to pull away from Nelu Safi and Amos Knight, who are both also pulling away with Adam in tow from the rest of the field behind them. Meanwhile, Sausage Joe tries to go around the outside. Very bold move. Very late. Tries to stick it in track limits. Keeps the car alongside. It will turn to the inside for the following corner of Stanford into the next one around the outside. V10 Leo has to come off the gas, and that has ultimately cost them because here comes Brown as we go into the Singapore Sling. Are they going to look for a move? Not quite. That would be very bold if the Williams managed to do that move. But V10 Leo just about holds on to P2. Sausage Joe, though, moves to the race lead. The Red Bull is flying right now. Got off the start. Got ahead of Epic OJ right around the first couple of corners. And managed to stay ahead of the Red Bull. And then gone after V10 Leo. Using those medium tyres to their advantage. Meanwhile, AMS are washed. Has made their way ahead of RR Hitman. And is now 1.8 seconds behind Adam. But can the Haas use that opportunity clean air now to pull away from the rest of the field? Meanwhile, having DRS for being behind during DRS detection is certainly the most crucial thing. Back end tap of the wall for RR Hitman as they got a bit of oversteer. That is going to cost them. Meanwhile, Meeks went very wide off the circuit. Someone has disconnected, I do believe. I believe it might be Rio. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see if I quickly drop in an invite back. I don't know if he's back. Is he back? I'm not sure. He might be back now. There you go. So we now got Sausage Joe leading the way ahead of B10 Leo. Bran in third, Epic OJ fourth, Nelu Safu and AMS Knight and Adam with the top 7. Those 7 drivers have pulled away from the rest of the field. We're currently contacting servers. Not entirely sure why, but we're going to continue on as Nelu Safu just looks to stay ahead of AMS Knight and try and close that points gap even marginally, because every point matters at this early point in the season. Because if AMS Knight makes any sort of mistake, any sort of error, whether it's this race or a few races time, that could be crucial. Meanwhile, there's a Williams that is currently off. That is Nana Mana. Bloody hell, I'm never going to be able to get that right every single time. They've gone round at the Singapore Sling section and just before the bridge, and will have to do about a 60-point turn, and they've just gone into the wall straight away in pure frustration, just trying to get around, and that is not the most happy of Williams right now. We now go on to lap 4. Sausage Joe will lead the way ahead of V10 Leo. Bran and Epic OJ managing to keep in touch at the moment. The medium runner of Sausage Joe not quite able to pull away at this time, as Rio Harris has got a 3-second time penalty with track limits. Nana Mana has retired from the session and is well down in the escape road to continue on. Something's happened with Rio. That is the wrong button. As the Alpine looks to be quite far off the field. I'm not exactly sure what happened. Maybe had a collision with Striker, who's also fairly far off the pack they were just with, and that is not what you want to be seeing if you're the Alpine RB. As at the moment you're already losing time to the top 7. The big point scorers are really moving as far and as quickly as way as possible. We go into sector 3. Well, we're about to start sector 3 on lap 4 of the race. Sausage Joe just managing to just keep V10 Leo behind, but at the moment that Ferrari is beginning to gain traction. Was a couple attempts further back this time round, last lap, but still remains just behind as we go into the chicane, as V10 Leo just looks to be buying this time here, because that tyre deficit is not as severe as potentially what the Sausage Joe was expecting, but that'll be good to know for later on in the race when the Red Bull is on the hard tyres. V10 Leo is on the mediums, so we'll see whether that plays any form of factor. We go through the right hand, and now Rio Harris has retired in the pit lane. That is a very unfortunate day for the Alpine, as we're now down to 12 runners on lap 5 of this Grand Prix. The top 7 just remaining within touching distance of each other. These guys are really close on pace. Wash has dropped fairly far back due to battling with our Royal Hitman. 4.6 seconds to the rest of the field. But anything to play for at this moment in time. These drivers are going to be quick, and they're going to be trying to push the limits of what is physically possible for themselves, the car, and all the above, and that could potentially lead to mistakes. These drivers though know how to play tactically as well, using that ERS to their advantage in defense, attack, and in overtaking, and in every single manner of being. Meeks has retired from the session just at the hairpin. I wonder if they've clicked the wall. V10 Leo goes flying past our Sausage Joe. V10 Leo back into the lead, but catches the curve on the final chicane, and that almost cost him position there. This is going to allow Sausage Joe to be right up the chuff of the Ferrari as we go down towards turn 1. We'll have DRS, the Red Bull will, but we'll also have DRS crucially down towards turn 7. We go through the first couple of corners of the lap. And the Red Bull looks to already have pushed their tyres that little bit more than what the Ferrari and Bran on the mediums have done so, because that does not look as stable as the rest of the field. Bit of compact there for Epic OJ with the barrier. That might cost them some tyre wear as well. Meanwhile, AMS Knight and Nelu Safu are getting into it. Those two looking to try and make extra points on each other, but they cannot do anything because they're stuck in this DRS train. So they need something to realistically break it at the moment, but they're all so closely matched. So we're going to go through and over the bridge once more for lap 6, and now down onto the DRS. Sausage Joe just beginning to fall back from V10 Leo, as the Ferrari right now is trying everything they possibly can to pull away. Even now on the hard compound tyres, potentially those mediums were burnt up too quickly if you're a sausage chug, and that is now going to go into conservation mode if you are the Red Bull. We'll see whether that has any effect, or whether he is just managing the pace. We are on lap 7 of the Singapore Grand Prix. A couple drivers have gained positions, including Brand, Sausage Joe, Lelu Safu and Adam. Strikers gained positions from retirement, starting in the back of the grid, remaining in last place on track, but certainly about to reach the points, because 3-second time penalty has just been given to JB395, the 10th place runner right now. Inherits the first 3 seconds of the race, and that is crucial because this early on at a track that isn't really known for its track limits is going to be a long day, because you need to try and stay within those white lines if you desperately can. Do not use up your track limit warnings this early. If you can, use them to your advantage later on in the race if you have them spare, but we'll see whether that makes any form of difference. So V10 Leo has now dropped Sausage Joe out of their DRS. That Red Bull really struggling with the mediums at this moment in time, as Bran is right up the back of the Sausage Joe, and Joe just not really have any answer to V10 Leo's pace, and that Red Bull may be chewing up their tyres well too quickly, because Bran on the mediums as well looks to be heavily quicker at this moment, but just cannot get past due to the difficulty of overtaking on such a circuit. It is not an easy track to overtake. It's not the most difficult. We've had more difficult tracks to overtake at over the years in both EXA and in real life Formula 1. But at the moment, it is not it's not going to be a swift overtake like you'd see at some tracks like Austria, Monza, Spa, etc. There's not that significantly top end speed related DRS zone on this circuit. The longest straight is really this one. As you go down towards turn 7, and at the moment you don't really reach top end speed. You get to 8th gear, but you don't reach that even for too long if you're in the DRS. Even if you're not, you sometimes stick it in 7th. You stay in 7th if you are in clean air and not really using your ERS. So that is the reason for such a high downfall circuit. You're not really quite reaching the levels of like top end speeds that you might do at some circuits, and that ultimately does create difficulties in overtaking it. But anyway, we're going to see it continue on. It is just about trying to force your rival into a mistake. There's a bit of a lock up there from one of the two medium runners, not entirely sure which, but they're going to continue on as we go down towards the final chicane. Can the Williams pull and get past the Red Bull? But at the moment it doesn't look likely. That tyre offset in terms of pace seems to have started to dissipate a little bit. Sausage Joe maybe conserving their tyres a little bit more, but the dirty air on Brand's Williams is certainly not helping him. But V10 Leo just looks to have this comfortably sorted, as we actually have a spinner. RRL Hitman has spun off at the final corner. That has ended them back into 11th place. And that is very unfortunate for the Division 3 driver, who looked to be holding himself fairly well against the rest of the bottom half of the field, and looked to be in solid points in their, I think, first race in Division 2, as our Hitman has just got to get his head down. Now he's one position outside of points. If they can get themselves into a position later on, that will certainly be a solid job from the Alpine. We'll see. We'll see whether they stay on for the rest of the race. Meanwhile, someone who's having a who's continuing to pull away is V10 Leo. Sausage Joe just not able to do anything against the Ferrari at this moment in time. Bran is certainly starting to fall back though from the Red Bull. The Williams looks to come under pressure from the other Red Bull, as Epic OJ looks to try and make a name for himself as we go down towards the final chicane of turn 16 and turn 17. As at the moment, it looks to be plain sailing for Vito and Leo. It's not really. You've got a long way to go. As we go down towards the first chicane, and it is just a matter of waiting game. If you're these drivers, if you're trying to get by, there's not really much you can do at this stage. However, someone who might have a say in that is Epic OJ, because he is right on the back of Bran. But Bran having that DRS off of Sausage Joe is ultimately costing his the Red Bull, because the team games will certainly be helping out at the moment. They're losing time to V10 Leo, but Sausage Joe is holding the drivers who at the moment could potentially overtake him much more easily than the Williams behind him, just for holding him in that DRS. So we'll see whether that has any bearing. Nice to see RL Hitman continuing on his way. He goes into the pits, but he comes back out. Good to see the Alpine staying in the race, looking to try and get the best possible result. Good on you, man. You don't see a lot of drivers doing that, but we always like to see it. If you just continue on, never give up, you might get something out of it later on. You've got a long way to go in this race as we go down towards the final chicane, as the 11 remaining drivers look to try and claim the maximum potentially possible at the moment. A long way to go. Any mistake from the drivers up the front can certainly cause everything to turn on its head as we go into lap 11 of 31. And at the moment, it is just a very tactical race. Just keep your ERS in check, make sure you don't burn up your tyres, and just make sure you are getting set to overtake and making sure you are defending, checking your mirrors, making sure you cannot get overtaken. But also, if you're in the car behind in the dirty air, you will be looking to overtake, because that dirty air will be ultimately costing your tyres. We now go through sector 2, and the Red Bulls is just really causing a massive problem for the drivers behind, because no one can really get by each other at the moment. They're all really struggling to do anything, but this is ultimately almost led to V10 Leo having a near 4-second gap. The race leader, the pole sitter, has done an excellent job in terms of managing pace, getting by Sausage Joe at the first proper opportunity after being overtaken by the medium runner, and has never really looked back, has now extended it to just about 4 seconds. And that is a massive margin. Lock up there from Sausage Joe. The Red Bull does not look the most comfortable. We now go through the double left-hander as we go on to lap 12. And you just begin to see that Ferrari slowly disappear off in the distance every lap. That Ferrari is just a little bit further away if you're any of these drivers behind. Brando looks maybe potentially to be losing out on that DRS, because here comes Epic OJ. 7/10, yes, is still in DRS, but Epic OJ is much closer in the slipstream than what Brand is, so that will ultimately help them. But it is just not enough at the moment, as the drivers just continue to trail behind. Currently, it is just a waiting game. Who has the better tyres? A bit of a problem there for Epic OJ. They go very deep into the corner, and that mistake has ultimately cost them. That has allowed Nelu Safu right into P4 and given them the wave bite. I think there was almost contact between the two, if not there was. But the Ferrari's up into P4, and crucially has put a driver between the championship leader and themselves. They've caught the wall! They've caught the wall! And that is potentially what happened to Meeks earlier on a couple laps ago. And that has caused a virtual safety car. Caught the wall, caught on the end of the bridge, and that is so easy to do. Such a simple mistake, such a frustrating mistake, because you can't hold that to anyone but yourself. And that has ultimately ended Epic OJ's race. The Red Bull out, and unfortunately, after doing so well in qualifying P2, was running P4, had a mistake, tried to recover, and immediately after has things go from bad to worse, losing position to losing any chance at points, and that is causing everyone to come into the pit lane. For new tyres, the VSC will ultimately help the drivers, yes, who are on mediums, because this is perfect timing for them. They come out on the hards. The drivers on hards will go in for mediums. Nelly Safi's retired from the race. What has happened there? The Ferrari completely out. I'm not exactly sure. I think they might have got damage from that. And that Ferrari has lost that entirely and now is out of the race as well. Drive-through penalty for Washed as well. Speeding under VSC. I think striking as a driver as well. Both of them do. And that the two drivers that remained out on track, as well as V10 Leo, have ultimately cost them big time. We go green once again. V10 Leo has a 20-second gap. Wash and Strikey have drive-through penalties. But Sausage Joe has come out on the hard tyres. Same with Bran and those two, who, yes, they lost a fair amount of time to Leo in the pit stop phases, will now be on hards to the end, and they will ultimately have that VSC Delta help them back towards V10 Leo, and potentially the Ferrari will struggle with his mediums the same that Sausage Joe and Bran did at the end of their stint. And that has now left us with 9 drivers left in the race. There's side-by-side action here between Strikey, Wash and Sausage Joe. We're going to go 3 wide here at Singapore, ladies and gentlemen. As we go, come out the hairpin down towards the sector 3. As Sausage Joe around the outside of both of them managed to get by. Strike and Wash are trying to look to try and gain position on each other. These two are still fighting position no matter what, because they've got drive-throughs. They will come out with each other still when they come into the pit lane. Twice they've got to go through, but points are still on the line here. Crucial points, and both drivers will stay out for another lap. This will ultimately cost Bran, as actually he goes into the wall. There's a bit of contact there, and that's allowed Wash to go into the barrier. Got damage for himself. 3-second time penalty to boot, and that is utterly devastating. It's got an in frustration, has spun it in pit lane, and it's just oversteering it now as we go around and round in circles for the Haas, and that is end of day for Wash. I wonder if they stay. No, they do not. They go and retire from the race. That is very unfortunate for the Haas, who now leaves the race and leaves us with 8 drivers left in the race. And that with half the race to go is frustrating for them. Wash, unfortunately, I believe there was contact. If not, that is a very odd place to get a rear brake spin, because you don't brake that harshly into that corner, and that is unfortunate for the Haas. V10 Leo though leads the way by 18.3 seconds over Sausage Joe. But the race for the win is not over. You've got 5 drivers currently who could still win this race. AMS Knight is right up the back of Bran. AMS Knight could still certainly win this race and take a further championship lead. Well, they can certainly do so now, because Nelu Safu is out this race. Bran is going to be trying to defend from Adam and AMS Knight as well. Both of them will be looking to hunt the Williams, who is on the hard compound tyres right now, yes, but that swing will certainly come back and help the Bran later on in the race, because AMS Knight and Adam will have to go much longer on the mediums than Bran and Sausage Joe had to in their first stint. V10 Leo is starting to lose time significantly, though. He may be trying to build up a tyre offset to go back at Sausage Joe and Bran later on in the race, which will definitely help them. Meanwhile, JB has got past Strikey as Strikey comes in to serve their drive-through, and will come out and pits and have to go around again. Points still on the offer for Strikey. Amos Knight goes up the inside, makes the move on Brad. The championship leader manages to get by, and this is crucial for the Sauber, because now they only have 1 car between them and the provisional race leader at the moment. V10 Leo will come out behind these 4 drivers, but will come out with a tyre offset, potentially more significantly than any tyre offset we've seen so far, and that is going to be the crucial factor. We are on lap 15 of 31. We are about to reach we are at the halfway point of the Singapore Grand Prix. And there's still some action to come this way. Sausage Joe is just keeping that 2-second margin over AMS Knight, but can they maintain it for long? Because the Sauber, who's been sat behind the field for the majority of this race, is now in the mediums and is now looking to be on the hunt. Bit of a snap there from AMS Knight, had to correct, almost goes into the barrier, but manages to keep the car in check. We at the moment have a lot of corners, there's a lot of walls to be careful of, and that is not the easiest thing to do, and keep the concentration level up in such tense conditions. We'll see whether the Sauber can manage it as we go through turn 5 down towards turn 6 and into turn 7. And that Sauber is slowly reeling in Sausage Joe. A tenth or two every couple corners is the crucial factor. But is it going to be enough before that tyre offset begins to fade away? Sausage Joe, though, is significantly catching V10 Leo as we go through the next couple of phases. At the moment, V10 Leo setting significantly worse times than Sausage Joe, but AMS Knight, but we'll have that tyre offset later on, and that is the crucial thing. Even though he's losing time and will come up behind this group of 4, will not will have a much better tyre wear at the end of the race, and will potentially have better pace as well. Amos Knight is basically dragging Bran and Adam towards Sausage Joe as a 1.8 second gap now. 1.7 we've just dipped into has certainly come up, as Sausage Joe just doing an excellent job, to be fair, on those hard tyres, just to maintain that pace, maybe looking to be much more comfortable on the tyres, but you don't want to burn them out like you did in the medium stint, because ultimately that will lead to significant problems later on. And we've now going to go into lap 17 of 31. Bran is looking to try and potentially make a move back on AMS Knight, but he's just too far back to do anything at this moment in time, and the Sauber just not really doing enough right now to catch Sausage Joe. That Red Bull looks to be an excellent pace right now, particularly with those hard tyres on. Top 5 have really done well at this stage as we go through sector 2 for these drivers, sector 3 for V10 Leo, but at the moment it's how far back do you come out if you are the Ferrari? Yes, you built up yourself a tyre offset. You're potentially looking for a driver to maybe cause another VSC or a safety car. If that happens, you are in prime position. So, with everything just settled down, with 8 drivers left in the race, V10 Leo comes into the pit lane to set a new pair of mediums tyres onto that Ferrari. And that is now what is crucial. Can that Ferrari catch the top 4 and retake their race lead? Lap 18 of 31 has got 13 laps, 14 laps even to do so. But 13.9 seconds, just Adam and Bran and AMS Knight, plus an extra 2.5 to Sausage Joe. That is a significant gap. Yes, you've got a tyre offset, but is that tyre offset going to be enough? But we'll see later on in the race. Has come ahead of JB395, just about, only by 4 seconds. But we'll see whether that continues on. V10 Leo could ultimately end up with a good haul of points here tonight. If they can catch that top 4, can they get ahead of AMS Knight? If we quickly look at the standings right now, V10 Leo currently in P4 in the standings, and at the moment is 44 points behind AMS Knight, and crucially only 10 points behind Nelu Safu. So if they finish P5, they will be on the same number of points as their Scuderia teammate. Brando will move to P2 in the standings. If things remain like this, AMS Knight will be
a significant further chunk ahead of the rest of the field. Is it going to end like this? Probably not, but we'll see whether that makes any form of difference. We're going to go with 2.2 seconds to Sausage Joe and AMS Knight now. The Sauber losing time to Sausage Joe. AMS Knight not really having quite the pace that we've seen in both qualifying and race trim from the Mystery Machine. But the Mystery Machine is certainly not going to back down, because they've got a championship to win and they want to win it as early as physically possible. Can the Red Bull hold on to that race lead, or will the pressure mount to be too much? Currently, though, Bran is going to put and Adam are putting AMS Knight under pressure. Yes, that their pace is going to be a bit more managed at this stage due to being on the medium compound of tyres for both AMS Knight and Adam, and having to go longer than they would have had to if the safe VSC did not come out. But could be crucial. Fast up the race for Strike of 31.4. A very decent job there from the RB, who currently sits in P8, looking to get to the end of this race. Again, if you are just looking to get to the end of this race, get some points on the board, I certainly commend you. Getting to the end of a race, especially on a street circuit, is very, very difficult at times. You've got to keep this concentration up for a long time. But if you manage to finish, that would be an excellent job. Adam comes into the pit lane. That is an interesting call there from the Aston Martin. The Ferrari goes back through 30.9 from a V10 Leo, who goes much quicker. Mate, had front wing damage. Adam got front wing damage, and that will ultimately cost him. He might potentially lose out time. JB's going slowly. Why is that, I wonder? Potentially running out of medium tyres early, and that has ultimately cost him. JB's gone into the pits and retired from the race. That is an unfortunate day for the Mercedes, but look to have at least P6, maybe even P7 if they did have any. I don't think they even had form of damage, so they could have at least maybe got P6 or P7, but they've decided that it isn't even worth it, and that is the opposite mentality. We do not want to see that. We want to see people go to the end, and yes, it is a pain sometimes, but it'd mean so much more for the end of the season, because every single point matters, and also mentality matters, because it really shows who you are as a driver. As we now go round lap 20 of 31, Bran's lost a significant amount of time as well. He's 6 seconds back from Adam. I wonder if they had some form of contact then, because those two have gone significantly further back from the rest of the AMS Knight and Sausage Joe, and that has ultimately cost both them drivers. As Bran continues on, he's on the hards. He will be going to the end no matter what, but he's lost 4 seconds to AMS Knight. I wonder if that is something happened and that cost Adam. Both of them still in a race, so will continue on, but and hopefully go to the end of the race. So it would be very nice if these 7 drivers stick in it until the end. But V10 Leo 1.6 seconds back now from Bran. From AMS Knight, it's a further 4 seconds back, and then 5.3 to Sausage Joe, who's doing an excellent job right now, as V10 Leo looks to put in the mileage and put in the hustle. We're going to see whether the Ferrari can put their name as a race winner this season, or will it be too much of a gap? There's not about 10 seconds between V10 Leo and Sausage Joe. Can the Red Bull keep that gap alive and keep that race win opportunity alive? But that 3 second time penalty that sits over his head could be the determining factor. But if you're Leo, you want to win it on track. You don't want to win it on penalties. You want to make sure you get this win on track. Going to the outside of the chicane. Can Bran defend this one? He goes very deep. He pushes him off the circuit. That is very, very ballsy there from the Williams, and the V10 Leo yet gets through, but that was so far off the circuit due to the Bran breaking late. V10 Leo didn't really have anywhere to go, unfortunately, and that luckily allowed V10 Leo through for him, but that is not the way we want to be seeing overtaking be done. Now, it is 4 seconds next to AMS9 and then 5.6 to Sausage Joe. V10 Leo looks to try and gain advantage as we go through lap 22 of 31. At the moment, that Ferrari is just hounding down the two race leaders. V10 Leo just demolishing that what was a 4 second lead only a couple corners ago. It's now 2.7 second lead as we go over the bridge and in through sector 3. Strike is coming to the pit, I believe. Maybe no, they've just gone very slowly for some reason. So but they're continuing on. That's the good thing. Just continue on. Strikey is actually catching ROL Hitman, and those two could end up fighting it out over P6 at the end of this race if Strikey's pace is that much more supreme. Bran is falling back now from V10 Leo. We'll have Adam, who is on newer tyres, 20.8 seconds back, potentially looking to make him will add some company to him later towards the end of the race if that pace is quick enough. But it looks like he is struggling. V10 Leo is on an absolute charge on those mediums. 1.1 seconds is now the gap just outside of the DRS window as we go through sector 1. And this looks to be the opportunity for V10 Leo to try and take his first race win. 7 seconds now back is AMS9 over Sausage Joe. That 3 second time penalty, not to become a factor quite yet, but may become a factor if V10 Leo manages to pass the championship leader quite efficiently. AMS9 will be looking to try and make this as difficult as possible. We go through sector 2 over the bridge and into turn 13 before continuing on over another bridge that is not very much talked about, but it's just significantly wider as we go into Connaught of turn 14, and then we go down towards turn 15, flat through here as we go towards 16 and 17. DRS there for V10 Leo. He's going to look to the outside, look to the inside, not going to make the same mistake as what he did with Brown. Up the inside into the final chicane. AMS Knight didn't really have an answer, but they're both struggling on exit. AMS Knight significantly more than what V10 Leo was. V10 Leo was put off by being on the inside, not having the optimised run on exit. AMS Knight just losing out on grip, and that has allowed V10 Leo into P2. Can AMS Knight though do anything in retaliation? I don't think he will. That grip is certainly not looking as favourable as what it was for V10 Leo. As we go through turn 5, we go down towards turn 6 and towards turn 7. 7.1 seconds though is the gap between the Red Bull and the Ferrari. Can V10 Leo narrow that gap? And crucially, can he not get a penalty? AMS Knight goes off the circuit there, goes very deep, and that's ultimately cost them. He's now going to stay on with V10 Leo, who is on a charge. Same with Strikey as well. 6.9 seconds is now the gap as to when we spoke about it only a couple laps ago, behind RL Hitman. And that, it could be a battle brewing towards in the next couple laps as we now go through lap 24, and that gap is beginning to shrink, but not as significantly of a pace as what it was to the rest of the field. Strikey, I think, is struggling through that final couple corners, and that has ultimately cost him time, a couple seconds again, and that is not what you want to be doing if you're the RB driver. But you at the moment, those tyres are not looking going to be the most favourable at the end of the race. We now continue on down towards double left-hander as the Ferrari will just 6.3 seconds is now the gap. That 3 second time penalty looming over Sausage Joe becomes ever more apparent. But will Leo's tyres go off, or will they have enough to go to the end and stay at a quicker delta to the Red Bull and the Red Bull's tyres? We now go through down towards the end of sector 1 and start of sector 2. Ferrari just making up time as we can go through every single corner, every single braking point, every single acceleration zone. It is just in the favour of the Ferrari, who looks to be on point at the moment. But AMS Knight is beginning to lose time to Brown as well. The Sauber just about starting to lose their tyre grip and could potentially lose fourth, potentially fifth place if Adam gets to hurry along, because if that Aston Martin gets quicker and quicker in comparison to AMS Knight and Brown, whose tyres continue to go off more and more, that could ultimately prove crucial, as we'll see whether that makes a difference. Strikey's now pulled the gap back down to what it was only 2 laps ago, but has crucially lost 2 laps of catching RL Hitman due to that problem at this very corner here, where they must have had oversteer, just about caught it but lost a couple seconds. We now just wait for AMS, V10 Leo to try and get past Sausage Joe. Brand decides to come into the pit lane. Potentially, those tyres were not looking the most happy, as we now go on to lap 26 of 31. Potentially looking to go to soft tyres, maybe to go to the end. No, they go to Inters. Oh wait, it is raining. I didn't even see that until you got to this shot. Intermediate tyres for Bran. Maybe he's going to get wet, too wet by the end of this race. That could throw a spanner in the works. If you are a Sausage Joe, V10 Leo, AMS Knight and Adam, when do you pit? Do you pit now, or do you decide, do you know what, I'm going to stay out and try and risk it on dries? Someone who isn't going to risk it on drive is Bran, who the Williams is looking to try and use those inters now, try and take advantage of potentially getting on those inters a lap earlier, or try and go to, well, and be the only driver to go to the end on the intermediates. We'll see whether that holds a factor. RL Hitman will come into the pit lane. Strikey will stay out. Differing decisions from the back to at the back of the pack in the remaining pack of the race. RL Hitman decides to go to intermediate tyres for those last 5 or 6 laps. Is that the decision that is wise? We'll see whether the Alpine can try and catch the RB, but they do get lapped by Sausage Joe. They may potentially get lapped by V10 Leo, who decides they're not going to stay out on the mediums. They're going to come into the pits this time round, and so does AMS Knight. Both of them coming into the pit lane, and at the moment go on to the intermediate compound of tyres, and that might be right when the crossover is, because drivers are starting to come round now and try and use this as an opportunity. V10 Leo is going to come out and remain in P. Well, he'll drop to P3 because Adam's gone out and stayed on the medium tyres. Maybe has enough grip because they pit on their tyres a couple laps later. But is that going to be enough? They've got a massive margin to Sausage Joe, who will come out in the lead if they decide to pit now. This is giving a free pit stop to the Red Bull, but is that going to be too little too late for Sausage Joe? Because at the moment, their tyres will not be the most happy. As we go through Sector 2 now, V10 Leo is much quicker than what Adam is at the moment, and looks to be much quicker than what Sausage Joe is, because those intermediates are starting to work more. They are starting to work better. Brad did catch AMS Knight in those couple of laps, well, that extra lap of coming in and starting on the intermediates. Strikey comes into the pit lane, decides the intermediates are worth it in these last few dying laps. Are they going to stay ahead, stay with RL Hitman, or will Hitman come out back ahead? I believe the Alpine will do so, but it's Bran, AMS Knight who are going to be fighting. It's going to be Adam, it's going to be V10 Leo. Here comes Sausage Joe into the pit lane as well. The intermediates will go on the Red Bull. Everyone will be on intermediates in these last moments of the race. Something that has certainly spiced up this race will certainly make the difference here. We're going to see Adam try and defend from V10 Leo, but is it going to be too much? He goes deep, and that almost goes off the circuit. That will give the run to the Ferrari, who just about stays right up the top of the Aston Martin, as the Aston Martin has no grip. It's just looking to try and use their track position to stay ahead, but it is going to be no avail, at least for P2 for the Aston Martin, who isn't quite slipping and sliding everywhere at the moment, but has now dropped to P3 behind V10 Leo, who is 8/10 off of the 3-second 3-second window that is needed to get into the race lead on penalties with just 4 laps to go. This is crucial for these drivers. Meanwhile, DRS for Bran, it is still enough for DRS at this moment in time, but AMS9 will stay well clear as we go through into sector 2 now, into turn 7. And that's a bit of a snap, but a bit of a moment there for AMS9. Manages to keep it fairly under control by the end of it, but goes very wide on exit. And actually might have actually been more of a different line to Bran, because Bran's car didn't disappear entirely in comparison to AMS9, who is pushing the limits now. V10 Leo just sitting around that 3.8 to 4 second window. The Ferrari needs to pick up the pace by second. Actually, he's losing time to Sausage Joe right now. The Red Bull looks to have a little bit of a pace advantage over the Ferrari, but at the moment it just looks like Sausage Joe might have just done enough, and that intermediate weather has come at the perfect time. Adam, who had nothing to lose in the sense of staying out because they are in P5, will maybe drop down to P5 by the end of it. We'll be able to pit for intermediates if they lose these 2 positions. And the Aston Martin does decide they're coming in. It is not worth the hassle as the track gets significantly wetter, and it leaves AMS9 to take P3 and Brown to take P4 as we go on to lap 29 of 31. 3 laps to go in this race, and we don't know whether it's going to be AMS9 or Bran who sits upon the final podium there, if it's going to be V10 Leo or Sausage Joe. But Sausage Joe's lead is beginning to grow significantly quicker over the Ferrari. Sausage Joe might take the race with the full win of the 4th round of the season, but with a couple laps to go, it's still tricky conditions out here. Meanwhile, RL Hitman and Strikey are right with each other, as well as the Alpine looks to defend the penultimate position in terms of drivers left in the race, while Strikey, who has a penalty crucially, is looking to be on the attack. Both Strikey and Sausage Joe have time penalties, and that is the crucial thing. AMS9 and Bran are going to go through and over the bridge to go towards the next straight and to end sector 2. Sauber is going to have to get their elbows out maybe if they make any sort of mistake, but it's going to be very difficult for Bran to overtake unless they have a significant pace advantage over the Mystery Machine. And at the moment, it does not look like the Williams quite has that at the, as it stands. We are on lap 30 or 31 as the stroke just crosses the line. We're going to go on to the penultimate lap for these 2 drivers we are on board with now. But it is not over yet until it's over. To finish first, you have to finish if you're Sausage Joe. Or to finish in any other position first, you need to finish, because at the moment, it is still greasy as you like it. We now go through the first chicane, and it is just about not too wet that the drivers are slipping and sliding over the track too much, but they are still starting to struggle with grip. RL Hitman now is coming under even more pressure from Strikey, and that as the tier 3 driver looks to defend from the RB, who does have that pace advantage, and it looks like opportunity could arise soon for the V-Carb as Strikey gets closer and closer to that rear wing of the Alpine, as they look to have much better exit here. As we go down towards turn 16 and 17, slipstream, no DRS now as it's been disabled for the RB, but is there going to be a mistake there from Hitman, who needs to just get through 2 more laps of this, because this will not be over quite yet. We see as Strikey though with that 3 second could prove costly unless the Alpine makes a mistake. It made like 6 seconds, and that is a very, very unfortunate moment for the RB. Meanwhile, AMS9 and Bran
will be very, very close together. We've gone to the final lap of the race for Sausage Joe and V10 Leo. These two will cross the line now to start their final lap of the race. And Brand is all over the back of AMS Knight, who just looks to be comfortable enough to stick in that position temporarily for the last remaining lap. Meanwhile, Strikey is not letting RL Hitman take home P6 on track if he has anything to say about it. We are now going down towards turn 7 though, towards Memorial Corner for AMS Knight and Bram. Those two have been in each other's, either in front of it, in each other's visors or in each other's rearview mirrors this whole race. Strikey is looking to try and get by RL Hitman, who has a massive snap of oversteer there on exit. Is that the opportunity Strikey needs? Not quite, as Hitman has still got another just a lap and a sector to go, just to try and get to the end of this race. But Strikey, at the moment, is going to be all over the back of the Alpine, who just cannot get by, as the V-Carb is just not able to do anything about the Alpine, who has done an excellent job. But someone who has done an excellent job from start to finish is Sausage Joe, who's coming around the final chicane, does have a 3 second, but has certainly cleared it. Going around the final 2 corners now, it is going to be Sausage Joe who takes the victory at Singapore for round 4 in Division 2. And that is an excellent drive from him. V10 Leo, despite sitting on pole, just comes home P2 by 2.1 seconds once penalties applied. And that is a solid result from the Ferrari, who missed the pit lane due to the VSC. But I managed to come back to P2, finishing ahead of AMS Knight, who finishes in 3rd by 2nd over Bran. Adam will come home in 5th. But the true question is, does Strikey get past our Hitman? Does Hitman make a mistake? Does that, we know that 6 second will be applied. But it will, we'll see whether Strikey can get by at least and do it on track. The Division 3 driver has shown excellent drive and ability today. They just need to get through the final part of the lap as they go over the bridge. Just be careful now as you go over the hairpin. Strikey has put this guy under significant pressure as Hitman gets a massive chunk of oversteer on the exit, but the Alpine has at the moment got through the most difficult phases of the lap, goes around the final sole right hand of the lap before we go towards the chicane, the final chicane. As we go turn 16 and 17, it's going to be side by side action though. As we go down towards the final chicane, Strikey makes the move up the inside, and that is going to be Strikey taking P6 on track and RL Hitman down to P7. But that penalty for Strikey will ultimately cost him, because RL Hitman will come home P6 on penalties. Strikey will come home 7th, and that is day done for Singapore. Congratulations. Whew, sorry, give me a second. All 7 drivers for starters for getting towards the end of to the end of the race. That was a very difficult race, a long race nonetheless, and putting on a show. As we see our race winner come out to the top step of the podium, as it is thoroughly deserved overall from these drivers. Sausage Joe takes that top step of the podium, ahead of V10 Leo, ahead of AMS Knight. Once again, a podium for the Sauber, who really extends their lead in the championship. Even if it's not to the 2 drivers who are ahead of him in this race, overall, they have done another excellent job today. As we now see these guys celebrate, and they just have their moment of glory. We just need to remember to get these last bits as well. ROL. Now come on. We're not going to go. Okay, we're just going to go stuck in the black screen. There you go. So that is race winner for them, and I didn't get the result. Great. Cheers, game. Well, No, it's great. So, as Sausage Joe will take victory ahead of V10 Leo and AMS9. Bran in fourth. Bran in fourth. Adam fifth. Oral Hitman is sixth, and then Strikey seventh. There you go. But that is going to be the end of the stream. We will be back next week for, I even said what it was earlier, for Austria. It is a sprint race, so be there. It is going to be an exciting one, and we will continue with this championship hunt later on in the season.